Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for jumping on to today's presentation. My name is Chi. I'll be your host. I am just going to give it another minute as we have quite a few people still jumping in. So if you can just bear with us, appreciate your patience, and we should be getting ready to go in about 45 seconds. Thank you. All right, probably just a bit short of 45 seconds, but nonetheless, it is 1:31. We will kick off. Thanks, everyone, for joining. Again, my name is Chi, and I'm one of the general managers here at Recovery Partners. For those that don't know much about Recovery Partners, we have been around for 20 years, 2024 being our 20th anniversary, which we're super proud of. We are a team of allied health and safety experts that specialise in safety, rehabilitation, and wellbeing services. So yeah, we're really grateful to be able to host today's webinar. This is as a celebration of Safe Work Month. If you haven't been aware or unfamiliar with it, October in Australia is Safe Work Month, where it enables many different industries to get together, collaborate, and celebrate safe work practices within the workplace. It is something that we don't just focus on 1 month of a year, obviously, but again, it is a good opportunity for everyone to get together and really talk about best practices and how we can continue to get better as organisations. So this is our third webinar of the month. We're running 4, so we've got today and next week's that we are hosting. We did do our first week being safety fundamentals. Last week we spoke about psychosocial, which is a really big area and something that is growing faster every day in terms of what's required there. Today we're talking about risk management fundamentals, and next week we'll be talking about musculoskeletal and manual handling. So one of the things I will mention is we try to have a little bit of a difference in terms of what we talk about in our presentations over the 4 weeks. And our theme as our point of difference is about external factors or non-traditional or non-work related factors that essentially can creep into the workplace. And for those that do have a role within safety, and most of us do, I'm sure you'll all agree that there are many different elements and factors that can creep into that workplace risk management puzzle. And it's really good to be able to share some of those, again, non-traditional insights for you to be able to take some of this away and provide that back to your workplace. Enough from me. I'm really grateful to have my colleague, James Weir, who will be guest speaker for today. Provided some credentials on James. He's one of our senior consultants. He has qualifications in safety. He is also an accredited exercise physiologist. So really, really good skill set to be able to have here today and share with you. James has been with us for a good couple of years now. He's worked across most industries, currently working predominantly around the care and transport logistics. Super excited for James to be here to be able to share some insights with you. If there are questions, and I'm certainly hopeful that you will have some questions, feel free to pop them on the chat. We won't get to them until the very end as part of our Q&A part of the presentation. And again, if there are any of the questions that are unanswered or we're not sure about, we will certainly be able to get back to you following this presentation. We will be sharing the content with you following this. So if you did want to take this back to your workplace, again, knowledge is power. Feel free to pass it on and share that with your colleagues and your peers as you feel, as you wish. Again, enough from me. I'm going to stop talking. Over to you, James.
Thank you, Chi. So thanks everyone for joining on, as Chi mentioned. So I'm James. I'm a safety consultant a senior safety consultant with Recovery Partners. So today we're going to be going through risk management. So what we're going to be going through is mainly just introduction into, I guess, the basis of risk management. So the hierarchy process, how that works, and then more going into internal and external factors that can, I guess, affect the safety of the workplace. So we're going to go into more detail about that, but we're going to be more focusing on the external factors that can impact the safety of a workplace. So starting off, so just with risk management point of view. So starting off with when we're thinking about risk management, there's a step-by-step process that we need to take. So the steps that you see in front of you, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, you can apply that to any situation. It could be work-related, it can be outside work as well. So if you go through this step-by-step process, you have a good opportunity to develop and strategize the best way to, I guess, to counteract your issue. So the first step is to identify the problem or identify the hazard. Second step is to, once that hazard or problem has been identified, we need to investigate. We need to investigate and find what the root cause is of that problem. So once we've found that, we then need to start to think about, okay, how can we fix that problem? So what can we do to best, fix that problem? And then number 4, how can we implement a plan and to take action on it? So how's that going to work in our organisation or our workplace on how we're going to, counteract that issue? And then once we've formulated a plan, we've implemented it, and we see it kind of working in our workplace, then we need to monitor and evaluate it. So it's kind of a cycle there. It's part of what we call a hierarchy process. So if you're not familiar with the hierarchy process, hierarchy stands for hazard identification, risk assessment, and control. So as you see in the diagram, as I mentioned before, it's a cycle. So sometimes organisations, what happens is they identify the hazards. They may review the controls that are already in place. They assess the risk, identify the controls, and sometimes they stop there. Okay, so when you do identify control, so what we mean by control is, I guess, the strategy on how we can, reduce the risk of the hazard that we've identified. So once we identify that control, we then need to ask our workforce and our workplace whether they're happy with it and whether it's going to be practical. So once we do that, it's implemented, and then that we need to continually monitor and review that as well. So obviously when we do think of a control, I guess, or a strategy at a certain point, maybe 6 months or 12 months down the track, it might not be as effective. So we do need to monitor and review that. And then when we do monitor and review, maybe we do find a hazard or another hazard of our original control. So that's why we consider it as a cycle there. So today, what we're going to be mainly focusing on is identifying the hazard, assessing the risk, and identifying additional controls. So now moving to understanding our risk factors. Our risk factors. So when we're, analysing risk, many of you may have seen something that looks like that picture there. So that's an example of what's called a risk matrix. So when we're analysing risk, we consider the likelihood of it occurring. So the likelihood of this matrix is down the left-hand side here on this left axis, and then the consequence. So the consequence is up the top. So once we, identify how likely the hazard or the issue is that may result in an incident or injury or an illness, we then need to think about, what's the highest severity of that hazard occurring of that injury or illness, okay? And then that will give us what's called a risk rating. Okay, so a number of factors can affect the likelihood and the consequence, and ultimately affect risk ratings. Okay, so what we're accustomed to thinking about is what's in our internal workplace, and thinking about what are some risk factors in our workplace that can affect our workers. But what we don't, or what we're not used to thinking about, is what's happening outside of our workplace. That could be that they're bringing maybe something into our workplace that can affect the safety of our workers. So here's a good example, or here's some, common internal risk factors that most organisations face on a day-to-day basis. So starting off with organisational factors. So one's safety culture. So I've been working with a floor manufacturing company, and when I first got there, their culture was there wasn't a lot of hazard reporting, and their incidents are quite high. So investigated why workers weren't reporting hazards was because previously, when they were reporting hazards, management weren't doing anything about it. So they didn't see any action. So their mindset was, what's the point of me reporting hazards when they're not going to get actioned? So that saw an increase in incidents. So luckily, or thankfully, we've turned that around. That's an example of, say, a poor safety culture can increase the risk in the workplace. Same as team factors. So peer pressure. So when we're first onboarding a worker and we go through a whole induction with them, we're making sure that they're fine, making sure that they know their procedures. Then they go into the workforce, and maybe they're working with a worker that's been there for 20 years. The worker that's been there for 20 years starts to take shortcuts, and maybe that new worker feels peer pressured to follow that worker that's been there for 20 years or so, and to start doing those shortcuts, which goes against their training and induction in the first place. So two examples there of how those common factors are some factors that organisations face day to day. So we don't really think about human factors. So human factors are one of the biggest. Now they're becoming probably one of the biggest factors that affect safety in a workplace. So it's now legislated with the psychosocial hazard legislation that we do need to start really thinking about how these human factors can affect the safety in our workplace. Okay, so unfortunately, we're all human. So we don't go to work and then just sleep at work and then wake up and we're back at work. We go home, and we go home for our personal life. We have time off with personal life as well. So with personal life comes decisions, and that may bring stress and anxiety onto our life that we can bring into the workplace. So it is part of now workplaces' responsibility to manage those risks. Okay, so some risk factors that could potentially impact human, I guess, our human response. So this is more internal, is say a worker's workload. So say we've given a worker a task, and they've come to us and they're starting to feel overwhelmed. So what we can do is we can start to think about a control measure, and the best way to think about the control measure, which is now coming into safety legislation, is the hierarchy of control, which is the diagram here on the right. So if you're not familiar with the hierarchy, it's a step-by-step process of how we can come up with the most effective strategy that's going to, I guess, reduce the risk of that hazard. Sorry, excuse me. So in terms of, going back to the example of someone who's feeling overwhelmed with maybe their workload, if we go to the hierarchy and say, can we eliminate their work? Well, no, really, no, we can't. Can we substitute? So maybe we can take a few tasks off their workload and give that to someone else who maybe has capacity. So we could substitute engineer. So maybe where our worker is working, say, at a manufacturing plant, and they're working on, say, some machinery, and they're finding it difficult working with that machinery, maybe we can engineer something that's going to make it easier for that worker to do the task that they need to do. So going down the list, so the lower, so the admin controls and the PPE, these are our least effective controls. Okay, so we want to be eliminating, substituting, or isolating engineering first before we think about administration controls. So they're more around, say, training or more hands make light work. So maybe having more people on the job, things like that. And PPE is self-explanatory there. So that's one example. So the other example might be process and design. So if I'm a manager of a workplace and I want to be giving a task to one of my staff members, I want to prepare them to give them the best opportunity to succeed. So I'm going to give them as much resources as I can, make sure I touch base with them, and making sure they're going to be performing at the best, rather than maybe not giving them as much information, maybe just saying, yeah, you'll be right, and letting them to go on their way. So there's a few examples there. So now we start to think about, okay, that's internal human factors. What about external human factors? So what are some factors that happen outside the workplace that could be impacting our workplace when they come to work? Okay, so one of the main things, so a big thing now is financial pressure. So obviously we're going through a stage of inflation. People might be feeling a little bit more pressure and stress about maybe their financial situation, and that may be impacting on their work as well. Another one is maybe fatigue, maybe due to their family. I, for one, I've got a 5.5-month-old, so not getting the best sleep night after night. So maybe that could be impacting, going into work every day, you're feeling a bit tired, maybe your concentration levels aren't the best. So it's now the organisation or the workplace's responsibility to start thinking about those factors, and maybe and having a conversation with that worker or the workforce on how they can best control those human factors, which is what we're going to go through now. So, as we know, there's not going to be one size fits all. Okay, so it might be case by case. So the situations might be difficult to control. So we need to maybe start to think about how can we give our workforce, I guess, the best opportunity to make those good decisions when they're outside of work. That's going to help them, improve their psychosocial ability and be able to perform the best that they need to perform when they're at work. Okay, so here's some examples of what we can do. So biggest one at the moment is flexible work arrangements. So understanding if our workers do need to, if they need to go to an appointment, or if maybe they have a young family and they need to last minute, have a medical appointment or something like that for one of their kids, or anything like that. So starting to think about how your business or your organisation can strategize against those situations can help when those situations arise. Can really help. Can help that ease of and seamlessly strategize and make that process a lot more easier to deal with. Another one is maybe drug and alcohol education is another main external issue that could be coming up. So you might be able to offer confidential counselling for drug and alcohol, or you might run a session on drug and alcohol consumption when you're outside of work. So especially when we're coming up to Christmas parties and things like that, that might be something that you might want to raise. EAP programs is another good one as well. So now that psychosocial legislation now in place, a lot of organisations are opting for EAP programs. So that's the really good external source outside of the company that workers can use to give their thoughts and start to hopefully improve their psychosocial ability. Positive safety culture as well. So financial wellness programs. So as I said from the beginning, financial stress. Maybe we can run a session on how you can best strategize with your financial situation. So that can really help people as well. Job security. So maybe we can start to bring our workforce in on what our plans are for the future. So it gives them a little bit more security to say, it gives them more faith in the company, I guess, to say, we know that our company wants to grow and move forward, and they've got these nice plans in place. So it gives me more confidence to maybe stay with the company I'm at, because I know that they're going to be going places in the next few years. Family support as well, so childcare. You can, or if you don't have a space to have childcare, maybe organise an arrangement that you can help people with maybe that can tie into their financial wellness as well. Another one as well, so increase remuneration with payments. So that could be something that you might want to address. Maybe that's a more case-to-case basis rather than a more, I guess, group sort of basis there. So there's a lot of different things that we can do, but I guess the main thing is with those external factors to start thinking about what we can do and then to strategize ahead. So when you are faced with those situations, you're better equipped to deal with them in the future. So what are some benefits? So improve morale, as I said, improve loyalty to the company, can increase productivity. So if I feel that my company is really addressing these factors, I'm going to feel like I'm going to be more motivated to be able to perform for them, to be able to maybe do those extra hours, because I know maybe I'll get it back in some way, shape, or form. So another big one is less anxiety and stress. So that's also going to help with managing your psychosocial hazards. If you can really get on top of those external factors, it's going to go a long way with helping your internal factors as well. Decreasing fatigue is another big one as well. So coming into work full of energy and ready to get the job done, rather than people walking in, dragging their heels, low motivation and low morale. So yeah, that's pretty much the end of the presentation. So hopefully you've got some tools that maybe you can start thinking about how you can now strategize and plan for dealing with maybe those external factors that could be coming into your work, but using that risk management model. So that risk management model is the key with that hierarchy of control. So if anyone's got any questions, fire away.
Awesome. Thank you so much, James. Just while we're waiting for those questions to come through, I'm sure the audience will all agree that it's been very insightful with what you've provided. What we can get out of that is we need to have a holistic way of thinking about managing risk. So we can't just expect people to be rocking up to work as fresh as a daisy and ready to get the job done 100% right and safe. So we need to really think outside that square to think, how can we really take into consideration these external factors into managing risk in the workplace? So well done. Thank you, James. Just going to have a look at the chat there. All right. Yeah, bit slow on the questions here, so I might just ask a few. James, what can I do if I'm a safety professional or I'm a team leader, and I guess I've got some tricky personal, or I've got a worker that's coming in with some personal matters going on. They're under prescription medication and they're going through a bit of a rough patch mentally outside of work. If I can't really find them suitable work, who else could I collaborate or liaise with within the organisation to best manage this?
Yeah, so you can collaborate with, I guess, your superiors to see if there's anything that you can offer them, whether it's another role or another duty to help support the worker. You can potentially, without naming any names, potentially have a chat with other workers as well, whether they're comfortable. Maybe you want to shift a few tasks or duties around, and obviously keeping it strictly confidential, but making sure that you obviously got their best intentions in mind, but also your other workers' intentions in mind as well. So obviously creating the best fit for your workforce there.
Okay, so maybe I think as a safety professional myself, I've worked really close with our HR departments to really broaden, I guess, to ensure that what I'm doing is consistent within my organisation. Because what we don't want, obviously, to think about is if workers are talking amongst themselves, which they do, that we're not favouring any one particular. Everyone's got their unique circumstances, so ensuring your policies and procedures are being followed, not just from safety, but obviously from a HR or an IR perspective, is probably another good one. And another one that I recently came across was coming to work with an injury. We know that it's good practice to try and accommodate, but we can't always provide them with alternate duties because it's obviously not work related. But if I do have an injury, a shoulder injury from football over the weekend, should you be putting in place a return to work plan, even if it's not workers' comp or work related? And if you are accommodating my duties, is it a good idea to put a return to work plan in place?
Yeah, I think so. If you got the resources and capacity to do it, absolutely. Because what the contrary of not putting one in is that a worker may be performing, maybe doing a task that's going to, I guess, inflame or exacerbate their pain symptoms, which ultimately is going to result in that worker potentially not being incapacitated for work down the future. So I guess putting a return to work or recover at work plan in place is going to keep that worker recovering at work or working and contributing to the organisation, rather than them putting themselves through pain for however long, and then eventually winding up them needing a month off work to recover from their injury. So, I think it's definitely a good idea.
No worries. And last one from me: if I am recruiting, so I'm working in a HR role and I'm leading a recruitment team, how do I best manage? What are some of the practices I can incorporate to ensure that I'm recruiting the best candidates possible for the job?
So
do I put them through like medicals or anything like that?
Yeah, probably the best way to go about it is, I guess, from physical and potentially a psychosocial aspect as well. Maybe going through pre-employment screening. So what that is before you agree to their employment, you go through a medical screening to making sure that they're going to be fit and able to be able to complete the task that need, or to complete their role that they need to be able to complete. So that's one aspect. Another aspect is it forms a basis. So if down the track that worker goes on to a claim, that pre-screening will be able to form that basis and measure whether that injury has occurred in their time at that workplace or has occurred elsewhere. So there's multiple benefits for pre-employment.
Yeah, and I think with that we can never eliminate it 100%, because I'm really keen for this job that I'm going for, and I'm going to put on my superhuman powers to get past this assessment because I want this job. But then when I get the job, I might go back to my old ways and let my injury go again, and that's where an injury can happen. But so I think it's not the be-all and end-all. Pre-employment assessments are a really good way to get your best chance to verify a candidate is the best person for the job, to be able to be fit and healthy and undertake it mentally and physically. Thank you very much for those insights. David, thank you very much for your question here. So I'm just going to read it out, and this is a question for you, James. For identifying hazards, they don't always present themselves, i.e. they can't be seen as they are potential and haven't occurred yet. This assumes that the responsible person has knowledge of all possible risks in that environment. How is this handled?
Yeah, so you cut off just at the end there, but so it is tricky. So I guess especially with external factors, it's about knowing your workers. So when it could be informally. You could be having a chat with them, say on a Monday morning, how was your weekend? What did you get up to? And I guess if I'm a manager or manager of a workplace, I'd be just listening to things that they say and pick up on things they might mention maybe in their personal lives that you think maybe could be a question of concern. Or you could do it formally. You could, when you have a review with them, you could make an agenda item and say, maybe you might want to put their personal goals in their agenda item, and maybe have that really maybe address those issues that you might have heard informally in that formal context. So, identifying hazards can be tricky, but I guess that would be my strategy for identifying those external factors.
Yeah, and utilize your health and safety representatives or your committees. They are essentially the people's voice. They're essentially going to be people working on the floor. It's really tricky as a leader to understand all of your people. Say if you've got 500 people within your operation, very, very tricky. But utilize your resources like your committees or your HSRs that you have on the floor that can provide some insights. Great. Thank you so much, James. I'll summarize, I guess, a few pointers there. So you've talked about leadership, the importance of team dynamics, ensuring, we recruit the best people for the job, utilizing pre-employment screens, on knowing the job, as The Rock would say, know your role as a leader, and ensuring that you know the role and you know the people that you need to do the role. So having that good match is really, really important to reduce risk. Having that open door policy with allowing people to come up front and be open and honest about any work or non-work related matters that they want, that they can disclose, because at the end of the day, you're fatigued, you're a heavy machine operator, you're coming in, you're falling asleep on the job and you're operating a crane or the likes of something that it's risky business. So having a good culture that enables that open discussion is really your best recipe. And it's no secret, but that is your best recipe to allow you to understand your people and match the type of risks that are out there in the workplace with the worker and their factors there. All right, now it comes to the final part where we are going to appoint a lucky door prize to one of our attendees today. So I'm just clicking on our little app here, and 5, 4. Okay. I've got a Kate Williams from Kembla. So MM Kembla. Congratulations, Kate. I will be in touch with you directly to nominate that prize for you in way of a Recovery Partner service. So well done there. Get yourself a lotto ticket if you haven't already. Sounds like it's your lucky day. For everyone else, thank you so much for joining today. Thank you so much to James for guest speaking on an insightful topic. If you haven't already, we have our last presentation that is next Friday. Jump on, register for that. Let's talk about manual handling risks there. Thank you very much again. Happy Safe Work Month, and we will hopefully see you here next Friday. Take care.
See you guys.